Welcome to Taipei. Accessibility recommended you remain seated with your seatbelt fastened until the seatbelt
Today's
sign
guest
has been
is
turned
David Lin, chairman of Whitesun Equity Partners. Whitesun Equity Partners is a private equity fund based in Taiwan, providing the growth capital to companies in technology and consumer sectors. Hi, David. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, David. Good to see you.
Yeah. So your company name is very interesting, Whitesun Equity Partners. How comes the sun becomes white?
There's a story of how Whitesun name came about. Whitesun, I started business back in 2005 together with one senior mentor. And the fact that we call it Whitesun because we like the vibrant, the agility, the energy of sun. And sun is transparent. Transparent is bright. Transparency means, a very important quality we like from people we work with, the entrepreneur we work with. And there's a separate meaning which represents our origin. So I'm, born and raised in Taiwan. So at the Taiwan symbol, there's a sun with spikes in the flag. So in a way to present my my identity, my original background. So we have that sun feature in our design of logo. So it's a bit of a Taiwan origin kind of symbol.
In a very interesting name, difficult to forget, I think. Okay. To start off, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and your journey to founding the Whitesun Equity Partners?
Well, I was born and raised in Taiwan until I finished high school. And I went to UK and I started all my kind of a consulting business as well as finishing off my higher degree. So I went to London School of Economics and later on at King's College Business School, where I, received my doctorate degree back in 2000. I turned into an investment career when I decided to move back to Taiwan in 2000. And I had an opportunity to join a bank called China Development Industrial Bank. Now it's part of China Development Financial Holdings. So I was a CDIB. I had started my investment career in 2000. So 20 some years since.
Yes. Please tell us a little bit about your fund investment strategy. I read that the description of a business website is basically it's a private equity fund management company providing growth capital to company in technology consumer sector. So why don't you tell us about your investment strategy, strike zone and sectors and geographic market, ticket size, anything you can share with us?
Sure. Basically, our style and strength really is cross-border. We're more hands-on. We like to work with entrepreneurs. So we are a longer-term view growth capital play. But it doesn't rule out us doing investment in other formats. So we also do mid-cap buyouts. We do have examples that we work with entrepreneurs to help the existing management team to take a public company private and restructure to allow the management team to do more creative arrangement of the company's operation. And later on, we release that company and it actually generate very good results. So we do growth capital, but we also do investment in other type of settings. Geographies, I would typically say we're very much Asian focused. We have probably very specific ecosystem type of geographic, allocations that we look at. So traditionally, Taiwan is very close with Silicon Valley. So that remains to be an area we continue to focus since, 2 decades ago. We also focus very much on Japan, Taiwan linkage. There are a lot of Japanese companies setting up their factories and setting up a lot of technology transfer partnership in Taiwan. And to extend that to Asian countries, this is a area that we've been focusing on. So Japan, Taiwan, ASEAN country, kind of an ecosystem. And obviously, our headquarters is in Taiwan. So there's still a lot of the Taiwanese businesses operating in China. So this is also another geography we look at as well.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yes, among the ASEAN market, which market do you have any specific focus among the ASEAN market?
More on a traditional business, on the more manufacturing type of businesses. Cambodia, Vietnam, we have some exposure there. Vietnam, Malaysia, even to smaller extent in Indonesia, we start setting our footprints there already.
I see. So how do you find a good investment target, entrepreneur you work with for your investment? I mean, do you have any approach, unique approach to find out the good potential entrepreneur or the company?
I think this is a very broad way, a very broad question, and I'll try to answer as relevant as I can.
Sure.
I think traditionally, the entrepreneur actually came from the university, people who are graduated around the same era. So the university, the school linkage, the school networks. Frankly, a lot of my partners and myself started with a business relationship with the entrepreneur through the school network. But I think more so when you start investing, we also found working with the entrepreneur and you start working with the network with the particular entrepreneur you back. Obviously, a great entrepreneur, they have their group of people too. And our strength really is to really work hands-on with the companies. And when you're hands-on with the company, you are in a way indirectly tap into that network as well. And in addition, we also work quite closely with our co-investment partners. So I think most of my investments, except for maybe two, of all this, my own investment, maybe 30 in the past 15 years, we all have, pretty strong co-investment partners. And that also allow us to identify, the group of good potential entrepreneurs to work with. Gotcha. But obviously there are other opportunistic approach that, through other media as well.
Yeah, actually this is not a simple question, but every time I ask a fund manager or the managing director of the fund, then people talk about the popular answer, talk about they look at the good entrepreneur and good team and something like that, right? At the right timing. But I understand it's very difficult to answer this question. Yeah, no one answer. Yeah. Yeah. So now we have gone through the pandemic. I understand that even in the past, when we went through some global crises, business ecosystem changed dramatically, right? So yeah. Post-pandemic, which vertical or which business do you think will experience explosive growth for the next couple of years?
Obviously, during pandemic time, a whole bunch of new applications were and are becoming very popular. Let me coin those applications. We call it like a so-called a zero contact economy. And those actually, from video conferencing, all kind of online, with VR, AR supporting the experience of zero contact applications are obviously going to stay with us because that effectively changed the way people interact. It changed, for good reason as well. it actually provides efficiency as well as providing various different new experience for work, for lifestyle, etc. But what is driving, these zero contact application going forward? There's still a big amount of technology behind. You need much bigger bandwidth. You need a much better resolution of all the hardware and software, this infrastructure platform. And with all that, it all also ties in with, the social aspects. So it's starting from a various zero contact applications, but you start connecting all the peripheral applications and services that is making it more advanced. So not just you have something that is brand new, but you're also driving and reshaping the way existing applications and technology can be featured in a zero contact type of settings. So which is very interesting. And at the same time, you have all the new technology, the 5Gs, a much more sophisticated graphic chips, sensors, all that, everything comes together. I think this is a really interesting and genuine time that you have a real demand in the market. It's a real demand of products and services, and which is going to be here for a long time.
Yes. Yeah, that's the reason you just explained. That's the main reason for the explosive demand increase of the chips, right? Semiconductor. Yes. So I used to invest a lot of finance, actually, the semiconductor equipment, like Korean company and Singaporean. And then I have a lot of contact with entrepreneurs in the semiconductor sector. They're so excited because they said that they don't have time. They need to work 24 hours. They cannot meet the demands.
Absolutely. Even that entire ecosystem, passive components and all that is, with application for autonomous driving, smart mobility, all that is driving a real demand in the market.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Exciting time.
Yes. Yeah. Very exciting time. Yeah. Okay. And please tell us a bit about your fund and then the couple of current portfolio company you're bullish about. And then you may tell us why you made investment in them.
Okay. So we're still very much focusing on two kind of a largish aspects. We've been very bullish on consumer. Consumer is actually a broader definition in my fund. So not only we look at the traditional retail businesses, food and beverage, apparels, etc., which is related to the continued increase of disposable income in this particular geography. But we're also looking at the other aspects that is connecting consumer behavior. So we do contents as well. That's also another, big growing area. So from music to contents that is a TV production, the technology that is allowing the post-production, all that business ecosystem falls into our area of interest. Obviously, another big area is more on the tech side, which is traditionally our strong area to look at. But there's also a third area we've been looking at and has been starting to do more work. It's actually more on the green energy and ESG type of investment. So I will really coin the key focus in these three areas. If I start with the green type of investment, we're not only working into a brand new company that is doing some really cutting edge new innovations, but we also support companies who are transforming into a more green, more eco-friendly operation by changing the current practice. A few years ago, I had an investment into an industrial paper company, doing corrugated paper, making boxes, etc. But they changed their business operation in the factory completely into a self-sufficient ecosystem, including all the management of the wastewater. So that is a sustainable, and I think it's much better, not just they making good products, but at the same time, they're cleaning the environment in a very self-sustainable, self-manageable fashion. That's the kind of company we pay attention to. We also support in another spectrum, a much earlier stage company, a company called Zing Mobility, basically is developing a new EV battery pack technology. The founder is from Tesla, one of the Tesla senior executive, and a good friend, also a great entrepreneur who runs Panasonic Taiwan. They formed this company to develop a next generation EV battery technology. We also bullish on that, which I think those are great to help the future. And with a great entrepreneur, obviously there's different risk return matrix. The two examples I show you, but I think those are type of spectrums of investment we do.
Yes.
In terms of consumer, recently we had a very successful lady apparel company we took public in Shenzhen Stock Exchange. Is a company who is doing a integrated from a fabric design to fabric manufacturing to design, manufacture, and retail business. Is integrated play, which we been working with for the past 6 years. A company called Xinghe, with their brand called Joya, Jorya. We are bullish about the way they can control the entire flow of the business. So it will really serve as a platform to integrate new brands. So far, the company, before it goes public, all 7 brands are all in-house developed. But with the platform being much more established, we are starting to look at kind of a combining, emerging in a smaller, more niche brands that can leverage our ecosystem, our platform, to do a much bigger and more higher margin business.
Gotcha. Yeah. I think a battery EV is a, huge phenomenon in the world now.
Yeah. And I think I think the interesting time is because there's no standard, there's no a fixed camps of iOS, if you like, that that car makers are adopting. So it's still at early stage that people are not looking into standardization.
Yeah.
And everyone's doing their thing. And if we look at the total volume of EV versus the traditional fossil fuel, still the numbers are picking up, but it's nowhere close to in terms of total percentages. So to make it even more popular globally, and obviously some form of standardization, I believe will take shape.
Agree. Even battery, they're using the all different material. Yeah.
Correct.
Tesla came up with the nickel-based battery. After that, somebody adopting new materials. So everybody using different material.
Yeah. Still at an earlier stage with volume like the current market. I think people are still available to do this level of business. But I think when a much higher integration and much bigger volume expected in the next few years, really you can see that coming. And I think it would just make a lot more sense to standardize big part of that process.
I see. Yeah. Government support is a huge driver as well. I see that everywhere. Government, even in some African country like Rwanda, they want to support any business related to EV. So that's a huge driver too.
Yes.
Beside investment, how do you support your portfolio company?
Well, we do have a group of very senior partners. Some of them are general partners that work full time with me. And we do have also venture partners representing each of the key industry areas that we focus. So we have a very senior telecom partner. We also have, for example, a very senior semiconductor. They're all being CEO positions in very large companies, in this part of the world. So I'm fortunate to have them because a lot of their insight really is helpful to our portfolio companies. And I'm the consumer guy, so I have, a lot of the basically from the ecosystem of, from the supply side, from business development side, are areas that I can be of some help.
Got you. Yeah, I love the consumer. In fact, yeah, B2C business. B2B
Right.
is sometimes too difficult. I know the interesting case in Korea. One of the large private equity fund that they made a huge loss when one bankrupt portfolio company. It was a technology company related semiconductor. After that, they changed the investment strategy completely. They say, I don't understand technology. I don't project the growth change of ecosystem. So the B2C is a very is honest. If with the needs of the consumer, desire of the consumer, then you can grow the business, right? Good strategy. Technology sometimes overnight completely changes. So technology become obsolete, some technology, right?
Yes. So I think a lot of people talk about consumer in the value of the data collected. Yes. So data really is a big asset. And that's a lot of people value, consumer related companies is through the consumer's data. That's also another aspect, people value these companies.
Yes, agree. Yeah, I love the consumer business. Yeah. What can we expect from you this year? And then what is your long-term vision for the fund?
Well, we continue to work with a lot of the emerging tech companies because of the zero contact applications becoming a long-term reality. It's not just a temporary situation. So we are working more on that side. And how does that work with a lot of the consumer-related opportunities? So we are working more with novel business models. But interestingly, not just startup companies with interesting models, but a lot of the public companies are starting to think of new ways to grow their business. So we are actually spending time working with larger companies that is already public. So we are actually doing some pipes as well, and also facilitating overseas acquisition or joint ventures. And that's more kind of a Taiwan invest out type of transactions. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, we're not really able to be as mobile as we were and as we like to. So a lot of the transactions are done over, video conference calls. It still feels very different. We do like to, to do this much more full scale, more systematic. So I think we're not doing as much as we like to because of the travel restrictions, etc. But I think that the direction will really be working with the new technology and zero contact related applications that ties in the hardware side and our consumer application side.
Got you. Yeah. Contactless, zero contact. That's I see that in Korea, that's a huge marketing boom and focus on that kind of technology. Yeah. Developing the robot and this kind of virtual, and then even including Korean government, they supported, and then actually they made a new coin. They call it ONTAC and ONTAC. So ONTAC, ONTACT. ONTAC means a little bit of additional bit on top of the virtual. They try to give some realistic experience through the simulation, right?
Right.
That was I found it very interesting. Yeah.
Which I think is great for the industry. I think the producer of the content or the designer of the service has to be much more sophisticated. They have to think outside of the box.
Yeah.
I think in the past, it's almost like you deliver whatever you think people will accept, but now you need to because like imagine yourself sitting on the other side of the earth somewhere in the living room, whatever, what those experiences would look like for the business to work. So I think it's very interesting.
Right. Chinese word for crisis, actually characters means the opportunity as well, right?
Yes.
It consists of
Yes. I mean, it definitely is a new paradigm shift for sure.
Right. Yes. Yeah. So it is the upside of a crisis. We are forced to develop and create a new ecosystem, new opportunity together. Yeah.
Yes. I think for private equity fund manager is great news. There are new ideas, new emerging entrepreneurs come out because of the change in the marketplace.
Yes, true. Very true. Yeah. My last question is actually my favorite question. Who is the nicest person you have ever met in your life, and then why? But I mean, excluding your family member. Otherwise, everybody will talk about the wife. So
those are very politically correct.
So I want to save you. I want to save you. You don't need to talk about your boss.
I have a very different way to look at this. Nice is an interesting term. I would say someone who has more profound influence on me.
Okay.
I have a very famous musician friend, and also David. His name is David Tao. Still active doing concerts and stuff. We're very good friends because one of my passion is music, and from him, I think he shared with me the journey of his creativity from all his artistic work. Is that he's very genuine. He doesn't follow everyone else's footsteps. He doesn't create work because he thinks the market at the specific time wants it. He is a very long-term view artist. So he creates everything, from his original creation. He writes all his songs. He produces all his songs. But to me, this actually gave me a very profound influence, is that you don't really get it right all the time, but at least you are trying to get it right at any time. If you don't do stupid things you can always have a much longer horizon to look at what you do. And obviously you will have good success if you stay longer, if you believe in yourself. And that's what I think every entrepreneur should have, that mentality. Obviously, the basics stuff you need to have. But I think psychologically, this is very, very important. And you need to be curious. You need to challenge all the assumptions. And all the key qualities I can actually see from someone who is coming from a completely different background and willing to share his journey with me. So that actually is a very different answer, I'm sure, from from most of other people. But this is something that really speaks to me. That I think to be genuine, to be curious, to be creative, to be energetic, this actually has a lot of similar characteristics we look at from the entrepreneur we work with.
Yeah. In fact, I try to be, the way you just described. I mean, they always try to be curious and trying to something new. I mean, even we are getting older and older, I try to do. But my question is actually my problem too, which is very difficult to execute, right? Because human beings shaped by habit, right?
Yeah.
Very difficult to change habit, even though we talk about great strategy, even about the company, right?
Yeah.
So I realize that I keep doing the same thing all the time, right? Even though I have a different strategy, different plan.
Right.
So that's a huge challenge for human being. So yeah, because
Exactly.
we always want to stay in the comfort zone, right? Comfort zone. We have a fear. You have a fear, huge fear. So how can you execute the the influence you received from the nicest person? How do you execute it?
Well, I think it just participate more of what these people do, not just one person in particular. I think the biggest joy of me is I have a lot of good friends who are willing to share their life stories in all details with me. Those are very valuable information and experience sharing to me. It helps me to think outside of the box. I think a lot of the time staying in comfort zone is because we don't have enough information to think outside of the box. But if you do, and those information inspire you, then there's more possibility being opened up.
Yes.
And I think that's how I continue to keep myself motivated by interacting with a lot of interesting, great people.
Right. I agree. I totally agree. I thought about that answer personally too. I mean, just working with smart people, that's not a good strategy because we have the same blind spot, right?
Yeah.
Working with old men is, even though the maybe female worker is less productive at the moment, but if try to hire the old man, then we have the same blind spot, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. I think I finished all the questions. So thank you so much taking time to introduce your fund. And sounds like you have a great plan.
Thank you. Great talking to you, David.
Yeah,
and enjoy your podcast.
Yeah.
Looking forward to many, many more episodes.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much for listening to this episode. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, share with a friend, and drop me a review. Goodbye.